I found the listing at 3:11 a.m. Thumb scrolling so hard my screen fell hot. That specific kind of desperation where you stop caring if the place is ghost as long as it has walls and a lock. Room for rent. Intercoastal mansion. Walk to beach. $600. $600. On the water. Across the street from the beach. My brain did that thing where it tried to protect me by calling it obviously fake, and then immediately did the other thing where it pictured myself waking up to sunrise and paying less than my car note. The photos looked too clean, too wide, like some real estate agent had shot them with a lens that makes closets look like cathedrals. 2 stories, pale stucco, a wraparound second-floor patio with white railings, and behind it, the faint blue stripe of the intracoastal like a vein. I messaged anyway, not even an email. A text number. He answered inside 2 minutes, which should have been my second clue. The first clue was the price. Can you tour tomorrow? Noon, he wrote. No, No, what's your name? Like he'd been waiting. The next day, I drove out there with that stupid, hopeful tightness in my chest. The neighborhood was old money coastal. Trimmed hedges, palms that looked professionally miserable, boats on trailers behind privacy fences. You could smell the water before you saw it, that wet metal salt smell mixed with sunscreen and diesel from the marina a mile away. The mansion was exactly what it looked like online. 2 stories high, big second-floor patio, windows reflecting bright, hard floor to light like mirrors. Across the street, between 2 skinny dunes, you could see the Atlantic, flat and white-capped. The intracoastal was on the other side of the house, quiet as a held breath. A guy opened the door before I even knocked. Anthony. He had long blonde hair that had no business looking that healthy in humidity. Early 30s, tan like he lived outside, and he smiled like smiling was a decision he'd made years ago and stuck with. He shook my hand like he meant it. You're on time, he said. I'm trying to be, I said, because I always say something dumb when I'm nervous. He stepped back and let me in. The air inside was cool, but not just from AC. It smelled like lemon cleaner and old wood, and underneath that, something faintly animal like you'd walk past a pet store too fast to identify it. The foyer was wide and open, a spiral staircase curling up like a seashell. There were framed beach photos on the walls, but none of the cheesy ones. No sunsets, just empty shoreline, storm clouds, waves frozen mid-break. He moved like he already knew the tour by heart. Kitchen first, granite, huge sink, everything spotless. Living room, plush couches, a giant TV that wasn't on, blinds half closed like the house was squinting. Back doors that opened onto the intracoastal side. You could see a dock and a little lift, 2 kayaks hanging on racks, water slapping softly against pilings. The whole place felt lived in but edited. Like he'd removed anything that would make it personal. We climbed the spiral staircase, and halfway up he said, casual, watch your step. The third one squeaks. Third one from where? He smiled without looking back. You'll know. That irritated me just a little. I hate vague shit. I hate when people talk in riddles like life is a movie. Upstairs, there were doors along a hallway. He showed me a big bedroom facing the beach side. My potential room, with a sliding door that led straight onto that massive patio. I stepped out and the wind hit me. Warm, salty loud. You could hear the ocean even with the house between us. That constant low roar like the world's biggest white noise machine. From up there you could see the street, the dunes, the beach, and if you turned, the intracoastal glittering on the backside. Boats slid by like they were being pulled on strings. So what do you think? He asked. Leaning on the railing like this was already settled. I love it, I said, and I meant it. My chest felt loose for the first time in months. This place is insane. Thanks, he said. I inherited it from my mom. Can I ask something? Sure. I hesitated because you don't want to look like you're counting someone else's money. But the number was screaming at me. Not complaining. I said, but why are you only charging $600? He didn't answer right away. He looked out toward the beach like he was checking the tide. I don't rent to just anyone, he said finally. I have a sense about people, a gut feeling. If I don't like them, which is most people, I turn them away. I did a little laugh because I didn't know what to do with that. Okay, I only want good people renting, he said, and when he turned his eyes on me, the smile stayed, but the warmth left it for a second, like he was weighing something. Well, I said, trying to sound confident instead of broke. You've got me sold. I need first and last month, he said. When are you moving in? Does next week work? Absolutely. We shook hands again. His palm was dry. Strong grip. Nothing weird. Just a guy with a too-good house and a too-good deal and a little speech about gut feelings that made him sound like a hippie bouncer. We walked back inside, and as we came down the spiral staircase, I saw it. A door beside the kitchen. Plain wooden door, like a pantry. And mounted above it, right at eye level, was a goat skull. Not a little decorative one from Etsy. A full goat head, clean down a bone, horns intact, jaw slightly open like it was mid-bleed. The bone was yellowed and cracked in places, and somebody had rubbed the horns smooth like handles. There were faint dark stains around the mount like old smoke. I stopped, stared. Anthony kept walking like it wasn't there, like it was a thermostat. What's that? I asked, trying to laugh it off. He glanced over his shoulder. Just a thing. A thing. He came back, stood beside me. My mom liked weird art. It's a real skull. Yeah. And it's on a door. Yeah. He said it's so flat I didn't want to push it. And honestly, I told myself the same thing you tell yourself when you see someone's house decor and it's not your style. Not my business. On my way out, he handed me a paper folded in half. House notes, he said. Read them. Seriously. I looked at it. Just plain printer paper like someone had typed it out in Word. Rules, I said, half joking. He didn't laugh. Notes. Outside, the sun was too bright, and my car smelled like old fast food and stress. I sat there with the paper in my lap and stared at the mansion again. The patio railings looked like ribs. The windows looked like eyes. I told myself I was overthinking. It was a deal. I needed a deal. I unfolded the paper. There were 7 bullet points, bolded like a cheap employee handbook. At the top, in all caps, it said, "Please read. This house is old and particular." I actually snorted, but I kept reading. Rule 1. Do not open the door with the goat head. Not for any reason. If it's open, close it without stepping inside. Rule 2. If you hear voices coming from that door, do not answer them. Do not call out. Put in headphones or turn on the TV and stay in your room. Rule 3. Never go into the kitchen barefoot after midnight. Always wear shoes. Rule 4. Do not use the back dock after dark, even if you think you see something you recognize on the water. Rule 5. If someone knocks 3 times on the back door, ignore it, even if it sounds like me. Rule 6. Lock your bedroom door when you sleep. It's just safer. The latch sticks, pull it until it clicks. Rule 7. If you're on the stairs and you hear the 3rd step squeak when you're not stepping on it, don't look down through the middle. Keep moving. Don't stop. I read them twice. The ocean roared in the distance like it was laughing. Rule 6 sounded like the kind of normal safety advice landlords give and call a rule so you take them seriously. Deceptively safe. Rule 3 was so specific it made my skin itch. Never go into the kitchen barefoot after midnight. Like, what, am I going to step on Lego? And Rule 7, don't look down through the middle of the spiral staircase. I folded the paper back up and told myself he was messing with me. Maybe he really was making some indie horror movie and wanted to creep out his tenants. Maybe the goat skull was a prop and the rules were part of the vibe. Or maybe his mom was the weird one and he just lived with it. I texted him, got the notes. LOL. He replied, not LOL. Read them again when you move in. That should have been enough to make me bail. But rent was due in 5 days, and my current place had a leak in the ceiling that dripped directly onto my pillow. Also, I was tired of sleeping with my ear open like a prey animal. I wanted space. I wanted ocean air. I wanted to feel like I wasn't drowning in my own life. So I moved in the next week like an idiot. Anthony met me in the driveway with the same firm handshake, same smile. He helped me carry boxes like we were already friends. He'd cleared out the room, so it felt like a hotel, bed, dresser, Nightstand, nothing personal. Clean sheets that smelled like bleach and fabric softener. He showed me the locks on the doors, the sliding patio door, the windows. "This one sticks," he said about the latch, like Rule 6 had warned. He pulled it until it clicked. "Hear that? You want to hear that?" "Got it," I said. He pointed at the spiral staircase. "Third step squeaks," he repeated. "Oh no," I said, teasing him. He gave me that look again, smile on his face, dead serious behind his eyes. "Don't make fun of it." That was our first little conflict right there. Not even a fight, just a moment where I realized he didn't like being challenged. He liked his house, his rules, his vibe, and if he stepped outside it, he got cold. I backed off. "I'm not." "Just yeah." "Okay." He handed me a key, and then, like he remembered something, he pulled a bright yellow Post-it off the fridge and stuck it higher, right at my eye level. It said, in messy black marker, "Don't be a hero." He pressed it down with his thumb like it mattered. "That's for you," he said. "For me? You seem like you'd be a hero," he said. "Don't." I didn't know how to answer that. I just nodded, and the Post-it fluttered a little in the AC. The first week was honestly good. Like, dangerously good. The kind of good that makes you stop questioning why it's good. I woke up early without an alarm because the light came in pale and blew through my curtains, and the ocean sounded like a giant breathing. I'd walk out onto the patio and watch the sun come up over the water like it was being poured. I started fishing off the beach, just casting into the surf because it calmed me down. Anthony would stand in the kitchen doorway with a mug of coffee and tell me spots like he was sharing secrets. "Don't go too far north," he said one morning. "Rip current over there. It looks calm." "It's not." "Okay. Try the cut by the rocks," he said. "You'll get snook if you're patient." He let me use his kayaks. He showed me how the current in the intracoastal moved like a slow conveyor belt. He pointed out manatees, sometimes these gray lumps that rolled under the water like tired ghosts. In the evenings, when I got home from work, there'd be dinner. Real dinner. Not microwave bullshit. He'd cook like someone who liked feeding people. Pasta, grilled fish, stir fry. We'd sit at the big kitchen island, and we'd talk like regular guys. Work complaints, stupid news, sports. We laughed. I caught myself thinking I'd lucked into some weird ocean uncle situation where I paid cheap rent and got adopted by a rich, slightly eccentric dude. If that had been all it was, I'd be writing a different story. I'd be leaving him a 5-star review, not confession dumping into the internet like I'm trying to scrape poison out of my own mouth. The second week, the house shifted. Not physically. It still looked the same. But Anthony did. He stopped sitting with me at dinner. Or he'd sit and barely eat, just push food around and stare at his phone like he was reading something that made him angry. He started disappearing into that door with the goat skull. I'd hear it sometimes, the soft click of the latch, the scrape of the door, and then silence. No TV, no music, just him gone behind bone and wood. Once I tried to joke about it. "So what's in there, your secret candy stash?" He didn't even look at me. "Nothing you need to know." "Okay," I said, and I felt stupid, like a kid who'd asked an adult question at the wrong time. He started locking that door. I know because I'd hear him slide something metal into place. Deadbolt maybe. Harder. He'd come back out smelling faintly like smoke and something sharp like pennies. Then the visitors started. The first time, I thought was a prank. I was in my room with the patio door open, letting the ocean air push through, and around midnight, I heard car doors outside. Not normal neighbor car doors, slow, careful, like people trying not to be loud. I walked to the railing and looked down. 2 cars I didn't recognize, parked in the driveway, and people getting out of them wearing black. Not like goth clothes, like robes, long, loose, hooded. They moved in a way that made my stomach crawl, not because of the robes, but because they were too coordinated, like they'd done it before, like a rehearsal. They filed toward the front door. Anthony opened it without them knocking. They went inside, and the door shut, and the house got quiet again. I stood there on the patio with my arms cold despite the heat, listening to the ocean and trying to tell myself it was a themed party, a movie club, LARPing, whatever. I remembered the rules in my pocket like a weight. Rule 2, if you hear voices from that door, do not answer them. Put in headphones. Stay in your room. Rule 1. Do not open the goat head door. If it's open, close it without stepping inside. I went back in and locked my bedroom door because it's just safer, right? Deceptively safe. The latch stuck. I pulled until it clicked. I tried to sleep. I couldn't. Downstairs, faintly, I heard murmuring. Not conversation. Not laughter. Low, rhythmic. Like people reading something together. The sound drifted up the spiral staircase like smoke. Then, quieter like a wet rag dragged across tile. A sound I couldn't place until I realized it was the back door opening. I got out of bed and cracked my door. The hallway was dark except for a sliver of light under the goat head door. It wasn't bright light. Candlelight. Flickering. And the smell, that sharp penny smell again, stronger. My mouth went dry. I remembered the post-it on the fridge. Don't be a hero. I shut my door. I went back to bed. I put my phone under my pillow like a kid. The next morning, Anthony was in the kitchen like nothing happened, humming while he made eggs. You have friends over? I asked, trying to sound casual. He didn't stop humming. Yeah. Late. Yeah. Everything good? He finally looked at me, and for a second, his face was normal, almost tired. We're making a movie. I blinked. A movie. A short film, he said. Horror. Something fun. Fun. I repeated because what else do you say? He shrugged like it was obvious. My friends are into it. They do costumes. Chanting. Atmosphere. It's stupid, but it looks good on camera. That explanation should have made me feel better. It didn't, because it fit too neatly. Like he'd already rehearsed it. Like he'd been waiting for me to ask so he could put the lid on it. Do you want to watch it when it's done? He asked. I've never been a horror fan. I don't like jump scares. I don't like gore. I don't like feeling like my heart is being squeezed by a fist. But I nodded because I wanted the situation to be normal. Sure, I said. Yeah, I'll watch it. He smiled again, warmer. Cool. That night, they came back. And the next. Not every night, but enough that the pattern settled in my bones. Black-robed figures, quiet cars, Anthony opening the door like a host, murmuring from behind the goat skull, candlelight under the crack. Sometimes, during the day, I'd see things around the house that hadn't been there before. A bowl of salt by the back door. A smear of something dark on the kitchen tile that looked like rust. The smell of smoke lingering in the vents. Once, I came home and found the yellow post-it on the fridge had been moved. Still said, don't be a hero, but now it was stuck higher, like someone had deliberately placed it where you couldn't ignore it. I asked Anthony why he moved it. He didn't even glance up from a stove. It fell. It didn't fall, I said, and there was heat in my voice that I didn't mean to show. He froze, not like a normal freeze, like a predator freeze. He set the spatula down slowly. You calling me a liar? He asked, still not looking at me. No, I said, but my pride flared like an idiot. I'm saying it didn't fall. He turned then. His eyes were bright. Too bright. You don't touch things in my house, he said. I didn't touch it. Then drop it. I stared at him. There are certain moments where you realize you're standing on thin ice and the other person doesn't care if you drown. I felt that. Fine, I said. Dropped. He smiled again like it was over. Like he hadn't just shown me his teeth. After that, I started living smaller. I stayed in my room more. I took longer routes through the house, so I didn't have to pass the goat head door. I wore shoes in the kitchen at night because Rule 3 had started whispering in my head like an itch. Arbitrary now, crucial later, I didn't know why, but the idea of my bare feet on cold tile after midnight made my skin crawl. The beach kept me sane. I walk out there and let the wind slap my face and pretend the house was just a weird chapter in my life, not a trap closing. And then came the night that broke the lie. It was storm season, the kind of night where the air feels electric and the ocean looks like dark steel. I went to bed early because my head hurt and the house felt tight, like the walls were listening. I locked my door, pulled until it clicked, and I lay there staring at the ceiling fan. Around midnight, the murmuring started again. I tried to ignore it. I tried to breathe with the ocean. I even put in headphones like Rule 2 said, turn on some dumb YouTube video, but I could still feel the vibrations through the floor. Then the scream hit. It wasn't a movie scream. It wasn't an acted, scream that rises and falls. It was a raw, ripped from the throat shriek that made my whole body seize. My headphones weren't loud enough to cover it. Nothing would have been. I sat up so fast my spine popped. My heart hammered like it wanted out. The scream stopped. For a beat, there was just the ocean, the fan, my own breath. Then chanting, louder, like the voices were right under my floor. And then another scream. This one went longer. It cracked at the end like whoever made it had run out of air. I sat on the edge of my bed with my hands clenched so tight my nails cut my palms. My first thought was exactly what Anthony had planted. It's for the movie. It's for the movie. It's for the movie. My second thought was, no one screams like that for fun. My third thought was the post-it, don't be a hero. I stood up anyway. I don't even know why. Curiosity, sure. But also that stupid human reflex where you hear pain and you feel responsible just because you can hear it. I put on slippers because Rule 3 was in my head like a voice. Never go into the kitchen barefoot after midnight. Always wear shoes. My door latch clicked softly as I opened it. The hallway was dark. The goat head door had light bleeding from underneath, flickering fast. Candlelight. The air smelled like smoke and pennies and something sour like old meat left out. Another scream hit, closer now, and I felt it in my teeth. I started down the spiral staircase, one careful step at a time. Carpeted stairs. Soft, but the wood underneath creaked in places. Third step squeak. It squeaked under my foot, loud in the quiet, and my stomach dropped because suddenly I knew exactly which one it was. The third one from the top had a distinct high chirp like a mouse. I kept going. Halfway down, I heard something else. The back door. A knock. 3 knocks. Not loud. Not polite. 3 firm knocks that sounded like someone using knuckles wrapped in cloth. Rule 5. If someone knocks 3 times on the back door, ignore it. Even if it sounds like me. My blood went cold. I stopped on the stairs, hand on the railing, and stared into the dark living room below. The third step squeaked again. I wasn't moving. The sound came from under me, like someone had stepped on it. Rule 7. If you're on the stairs and you hear the third step squeak when you're not stepping on it, don't look down through the middle. Keep moving. Don't stop. My eyes flicked toward the center of the spiral staircase, that hollow column where you could look straight down into the foyer. I wanted to look. My body wanted to, like there was a magnet in the dark. I didn't. I clenched my jaw and kept moving, forcing my feet to keep going even though every instinct screamed at me to freeze and listen. The chanting rose. The voices weren't speaking English. I'm not saying that to make it sound scarier. They just weren't. It was harsh and rhythmic, syllables that felt like they scraped. Another scream, shorter, like a gasp that turned into pain. I hit the bottom floor and my skin prickled. The air was cooler down there, damp in a way AC doesn't make it. Like the house was sweating. I crept toward the kitchen because the goat head door was beside it and the sound was coming from there. Light flickered under the door like a heartbeat. I saw my phone on the kitchen counter where I'd left it charging earlier. I grabbed it. My hand was shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I didn't call 911 right away. That's the part one hate admitting. Not because it makes me look bad, but because it shows how fast your brain will betray you when you're scared. A part of me still wanted Anthony's movie lie to be true. A part of me wanted to be wrong. A part of me wanted to go back upstairs and pretend I never heard anything. Then the scream came again, and it wasn't just a scream. It had words in it. Something. A choked sound. Like someone trying to say mom or no and getting cut off. My thumb hovered over the 911 button. The back door knocked 3 times again. I turned my head slowly toward it. Nothing. Just darkness beyond the glass. The intracoastal side of the house hidden behind curtains and night. Rule 4. Do not use the back dock after dark, even if you think you see something you recognize on the water. My mouth tasted like pennies now, like fear makes you bleed. I swallowed hard and hit 911. The call didn't even connect. No ring. No operator. Just silence. and then my screen went black like the phone had died. It hadn't been low battery. It had been charging. It should have been full. I jabbed the power button. Nothing. A cold pressure pressed behind my eyes, like when you dive too deep and your sinuses start to complain. My ears popped. The chanting stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was worse than the chanting. The house felt like it leaned in. Then the goat head door handle turned, slow, deliberate, like someone wanted me to hear every click. I backed up until my hips hit the kitchen island. The door opened. A hooded figure stepped out. Black robe, bare feet on tile. The robe hem was damp, darkened like it had been dragged through something wet. The figure pulled back the hood. Anthony. He stared at me like he'd been waiting for me to be exactly where I was. His eyes were wide, and his smile, I don't know how to describe it other than wrong. Not a grin, a crack, like his face had split and something inside was pushing out. "You're just in time," he said. My throat made a sound that wasn't words. I was just. He tilted his head. "Staying," he said softly. "You were just staying." The way he said it made me feel stupid and trapped, like he caught me sneaking cookies. "Anthony," I said, and my voice shook. "What the fuck is going on?" He lifted his hand and snapped his fingers. From the goat head door, behind him, hooded figures spilled out like black water. 6, 7, more. They moved in unison, fast and quiet. And for a second my brain couldn't process it because people don't move like that unless they practiced. One grabbed my left arm, another grabbed my right. Their hands were cold and dry, like paper. "Hey," I started, but my voice got swallowed. They yanked me toward the goat head door. I planted my feet and fought because instinct kicked in hard. I twisted, trying to rip free. My phone, dead phone, slipped out of my hand and clattered across the tile, skidding under the kitchen table. "Stop," I shouted. "Let me go." Anthony stepped closer, calm as a guy watching a dog struggle on a leash. "We've been expecting you," he said. "Don't you realize you're about to die for something great?" "Something great?" I spat. "Are you out of your fucking mind?" One of the hooded figures leaned in close, and even through the robe, I could smell him. Not BO, not sweat. Something ancient and sour, like a basement that's been wet for years. I kicked backward, slammed my heel into someone's shin. They grunted, grip loosening. I ripped one arm free and swung. My fist connected with someone's mouth under their hood. I felt teeth. Vet. The hood fell back, and I saw a face that wasn't right. Bald head, skin stretched too tight. Teeth broken and uneven like stones. His eyes were milky, unfocused, but he still tracked me. His cranium seemed elongated like the top of his skull had been pulled, and carved into the skin, or burned into it, were symbols. Not tattoos, not sharp lines. More like scars that had been reopened over and over until they turned dark. He hissed at me. Not a human hiss. A wet, hungry sound. My stomach flipped. I shoved hard, broke free, and ran. I bolted out the front door, barefoot slippered, not caring about rules, not caring about dignity. The humid night slapped me. The ocean roared louder, like it was cheering or warning. I couldn't tell. I sprinted to my car in the driveway and yanked the handle. Locked. I dug in my pocket for my keys, and my hand shook so bad I dropped them. They clinked on the concrete. I grabbed them, stabbed at the lock. Nothing. The key wouldn't turn. Like the lock had jammed. Like the car wasn't my car anymore. Behind me, the front door banged open. Footsteps poured out. "Fuck," I yelled, and I ran to the neighbor's house across the street, pounding on their door with both fists. I didn't care how I looked. I didn't care if I sounded insane. I just needed a human being to open a door. "Help," I screamed. "Call the police. Please." No lights came on. No footsteps. The house stayed dead and silent like it had been abandoned for years. The chanting started again behind me, low and fast, like a swarm of bees. I turned and saw them moving toward me down the driveway, robes fluttering, faces hidden. Anthony walked behind them like a shepherd. I backed away from the neighbor's door, cornered between two houses, heart trying to burst out of my ribs. "Please," I said, and I hated myself for how small it sounded. Anthony's smile widened. "Don't be a hero," he said. For a split second, I saw the yellow post-it in my mind, stuck to the fridge like a warning I hadn't understood. Something cold pressed against my face. A hand, strong, and a cloth shoved over my mouth and nose. The smell hit me like a punch, chemical, sweet, like cleaning fluid mixed with rotten fruit. I tried to inhale, and my lungs seized. I tried to swing my arms, but my body went heavy instantly, like my muscles had been unplugged. The world tilted. The ocean roar stretched out into a long, low note like a ship horn. The last thing I saw before everything went black was the goat skull in the doorway, horns catching the porch light, mouth open like it was laughing. I woke up with my chin glued to my chest. My neck screamed when I tried to lift my head. The air was thick and hot and smelled like wax and smoke. My wrist burned. I blinked hard, trying to clear my vision. I was tied to a chair, not loosely, roped into my wrists and ankles. My arms were strapped behind the chair back, shoulders pulled tight. My legs were forced apart in a way that made my hips ache. The room was dark except for candles. Dozens of them, scattered on the floor and on shelves, their flames bending and trembling like they were breathing. The light made the walls move. I recognized the room in pieces, the goat head door, the same wood, the same smell, but now I was inside it. And around me, in a slow circle, hooded figures stood silently, their faces mostly hidden, candlelight catching glimpses of skin that looked too pale, too stretched. My mouth was dry as sand. My tongue felt too big for my teeth. Across from me, Anthony sat in another chair like he was waiting at a dentist's office. He was scrolling through my phone, which was somehow alive again, the screen glow lighting his face from below. He didn't look like the friendly guy who made stir-fry. He looked satisfied, like something had finally clicked into place. He glanced up at me and smiled that cracked smile. "Let's make a deal," he said. "Shall we?" My wrists were numb where the rope cut in, but under that numbness there was this deep, throbbing heat like my bones wanted to crawl out of my skin. I tested the knots anyway, because my brain was still pretending there was a version of this where I brute forced my way out. The chair groaned. The rope didn't give. "You're insane," I said. It came out rough. My throat tasted like that rag. Sweet chemical, like a hospital hallway. Anthony's eyes flicked down to my hands, like he enjoyed watching me struggle. "Your ignorance is amusing," he said. "Let me go," I said, and my voice cracked on it. I didn't mean for it to sound like pleading. It did anyway. "What the fuck do you want?" He held my phone up, screen facing me. My lock screen photo was my stupid beach shot from 2 days ago, sunrise bleeding orange into the water. Seeing it in that room with candles made me want to vomit. "You wanted a deal," he said. "You wanted the ocean. You wanted peace. You wanted cheap. Everyone wants cheap. Everybody wants the shortcut. I wanted a room," I snapped. "I wanted a place to sleep." He smiled wider at the anger. "And now you're in the room that matters." One of the hooded figures shifted behind him, the robe whispering against the floor. I caught a glimpse of bare feet. Vet. Not what like sweat. Well, like they'd stepped in shallow water and didn't care. My skin prickled. I heard screaming. I said, "I'm not playing along with this movie bullshit anymore. Someone's hurt. Someone's." Anthony lifted a finger like a teacher stopping a kid mid-sentence. "No," he said. "Don't talk about what you don't understand." A voice came from the circle, muffled by the hood. "Mail, maybe." He opened the wrong door. It said, like that alone was an offense. I didn't open it. I spat. It opened. Anthony's gaze sharpened. "You came down the stairs," he said. "You walked into the kitchen. You put your hands on a phone that didn't want to work. You did everything you were told not to do." I stared at him. "I was told not to call for help? That's what you're saying." "That's not help," he said, calm. "That's bringing in noise. We don't do noise." I laughed, short and ugly. "So you're going to kill me quietly?" "Great." He leaned back in his chair. "Not necessarily," he said. "We need someone who can live in the house without the house rejecting them. And you fit." My stomach twisted. "Fit what?" Anthony tapped my phone screen with his thumb, scrolling like he was shopping. You have a life that won't be missed, he said. Not enough people. Not enough tether. You're clean. No kids. No spouse. No one who'd kick my door down. Fuck you, I said. It hit harder than pleading. It made the hooded circle react, the way a pack reacts to sudden movement. Anthony didn't flinch. He just smiled like I'd said something cute. You could stay, he said. Join us and participate. And if I don't, the room got a degree colder. Candle flames dipped like they heard it too. Anthony's smile thinned. Then you become the participation. I swallowed. My tongue felt like sandpaper. Behind Anthony, that goat-head door sat slightly ajar, and I could see nothing inside it but darkness. But the darkness didn't look empty. It looked thick, like water at night, like something you could drown in without moving an inch. He watched me watching it. That door, he said softly, is why my mother built this place here. The water on one side, the ocean on the other. The house sits between currents. A throat, a funnel. Things pass through. Stop, I said. Stop talking like that. You're not special. You're not a wizard. You're a guy with a goat skull and friends in costumes. One of the hooded people laughed quietly. It sounded wet. Anthony's eyes didn't leave mine. Say that again, he said. Fuck you. I repeated louder because anger was the only thing keeping me from folding. Let me go. Anthony nodded like he was disappointed, but not surprised. He set my phone down on his knee and clasped his hands. Okay, he said. Here's the deal. You live. You stay upstairs. You eat. You wake up to sunrise and pretend you earned it. You fish. You kayak. You keep your mouth shut. And in exchange, we would need an offering, he said, like he was asking for a security deposit. You'll call someone you aren't close with. You'll invite them here. Someone with a loose tie to you. Someone who won't trigger questions. They'll come for dinner. They'll never leave. My heartbeat turned into a slow, heavy pounding. Every pulse felt like it was hitting the rope. No, I said immediately. Anthony shrugged like he expected it. Then it's you. The hooded circle tightened, a half step inward. The air pressed harder against my skin. You're sick, I said. You're fucking sick. Good and evil don't exist in this house, Anthony said, and his voice changed on the word house. Like he meant it literally. Like the building was a mouth and he was its tongue. Survival is yours. I jerked my wrists again, useless, and the rope bit deeper. I hissed through my teeth. I'm not murdering somebody, I said. Anthony's eyes went flat. Then you're volunteering. He snapped his fingers again, sharp. Two hooded figures moved behind me. I felt hands on the chair back. The chair tilted slowly backward. My stomach lurched as the room spun. No, I said, and it came out ugly now, the fear finally breaking through. Wait. The chair leg scraped. I felt myself going down. Anthony watched, calm as a guy watching a tide come in. The goat head door creaked wider. The darkness beyond it breathed. That's the only word that fits. It breathed. Something moved in there. Not like a person, like a shape shifting under deep water. The candle flames leaned toward the door. The hooded figures began to chant again, low, synchronized, and in the sound I recognized something from nights when I tried to sleep upstairs, that same rhythm that made the floor vibrate. The chair kept tipping, and suddenly I understood Rule 1 in my bones. Do not open the door. Not for any reason. If it's open, close it without stepping inside. Like the door was not a door. Like it was a lid. My throat tightened. Stop, I rasped. Anthony smiled. Call, he said. I can't. I choked. My phone. He held it up. Screen lit. Full bars. Like it had never died. Like it had only been asleep until he wanted it awake. He didn't even offer it to me yet. He let me look at it like it was a steak in front of a starving dog. Choose, he said. The chair tipped another inch, and the darkness in the doorway seemed to swell like it was leaning out. I felt pressure in my ears again, deeper now like the start of dive. My vision blurred at the edges. The chant got louder. Okay, I shouted, and the sound shocked even me. Okay, stop. Stop. The chair stopped tipping. Hand steadied it. My stomach dropped back into place in a nauseating slosh. Anthony's smile returned to its cracked, satisfied shape. "Good," he said. "You're learning. Don't be a hero." The words hit me like a slap because they weren't just his now. They were that yellow post-it. They were the house speaking through him. He stood, walked over, and crouched in front of me like we were sharing a secret. "You're going to call someone," he said. "Someone you don't love. Someone you can live without." My mind sprinted through faces. Family, no. Friends, no. Co-workers, no. People who'd be missed. People who'd make noise. And then, like my brain hated me, it offered one that fit. My old boss. Not my current job. The job before, the one that had chewed me up. The guy who'd smile while he cut my hours. The guy who'd forgotten to put in my overtime. The guy who'd told me I should be grateful for the experience. I hadn't spoken to him in months. Loose tie, not close. I could imagine him showing up for a free dinner at a beach mansion without telling anyone, because he liked being impressed. My stomach turned. Anthony watched my face like he could read the name off it. "Good," he murmured, and I hated that he knew before I said it. He stood and gestured, and one of the hooded figures stepped forward, hands out. The phone was placed against my ear like a gun. My fingers were numb, but they forced the screen awake. My passcode worked. Of course it did. The house wanted it to. Anthony leaned close enough that I could smell his skin. Clean soap over something sour underneath. "Put on speaker," he said. I did. The ringtone sounded impossibly normal in that room. Cheery. Wrong. My old boss answered on the second ring, because of course he did. He always answered when there was a chance something benefited him. "Hello," he said, voice thick with sleep or drink. My mouth went dry. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my throat. Anthony's hand rested lightly on my shoulder, like reassurance, like ownership. "Hey," I said. My voice shook. It's me. He interrupted, irritated. "Who is this?" It made it easier in a sick way. The fact that he didn't even recognize my voice. "It's your old employee," I said. "From..." "Oh," he said, and the tone shifted into that fake warmth that always pissed me off. "Yeah. Hey, what's up?" I stared at the candles. I stared at the goat head door. I stare anywhere but Anthony. "I'm living out by the beach now," I said, forcing words like I was pushing glass out of my throat. "Got this insane place. Wanted to, I don't know, catch up. Dinner. You always said I should network." There was a pause, and then I heard him smile through the phone. "Well, look at you," he said. "Moving up." My stomach cramped. "Yeah," I said. "So tomorrow night? I'll cook. 6. Anthony's fingers tightened on my shoulder. "A warning." "Sure," my old boss said. "Where is it?" I gave the address. He whistled softly. "That neighborhood? Damn. Okay. Yeah, I'll be there. You got beer?" Anthony's hand dug harder. "Yeah," I said. "I got beer." "All right," he said, already sounding like he was picturing himself telling someone about it. "See you." He hung up. The phone was taken from my hand, gentle as a lover taking something fragile. The chanting stopped. The room exhaled. I sat there shaking, staring at my own knees, and the weight of what I'd just done settled into me like mud. Anthony clapped his hands once, brisk, like we'd finished a business meeting. "Great," he said. "Now we can begin." I barked a short, bitter laugh. "Begin what? You already won." Anthony's smile didn't falter. "You think this is winning?" he said. "This is admission." One of the hooded figures stepped close enough that candlelight caught their chin. Skin looked gray, lips cracked. They leaned in and whispered something I couldn't understand, but the sound made the hair on my arms lift. Anthony turned away like he'd lost interest in me as a person and gained interest in me as a tool. The ropes were cut eventually, not untied. A knife slid through them clean. The relief was instant and then replaced by pain as blood rushed back into my hands. 2 of them gripped my arms and hauled me upright. I tried to yank away out of reflex, and a fist hit my stomach hard enough to fold me. No warning, no drama, just punishment. "Easy," Anthony said, not to them, to me. You can't afford pride right now. They marched me out of the goat head room and up the spiral stairs. I kept my eyes forward. I didn't look down through the middle. I remembered the third step squeak, and I felt under my bare soles now, because in the goat head room, they'd taken my slippers. Rule 3 was screaming in my head like a siren. Never go into the kitchen barefoot after midnight. Always wear shoes. The house had made me violate it. It had made it clear the rules weren't for safety. They were for obedience. At the top, they shoved me into my room. "Lock it," Anthony said from the hall. I stared at him. "You're locking me in?" Anthony tilted his head. "No," he said. "You're locking you in. It's just safer. Rule 6. Deceptively safe. Lock your bedroom door when you sleep. The latch sticks, pull it until it clicks." It wasn't advice anymore. It was a leash. "I'm not sleeping," I said. "You will," he said, and his voice softened in a way that made my skin crawl more than the threats. "Eat. Shower. Get rest. Tomorrow you'll be useful." He started to walk away, then stopped and looked back. "And don't," he said, "be a hero." He left. The hallway light went off. My room went dark except for moonlight coming through the patio door. I stood there, hands shaking, staring at the latch like it was a joke the house was playing on me. Then I pulled it until it clicked because I didn't know what else to do. Because fear makes you do stupid, obedient things. I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay on the bed, fully dressed, listening. The ocean never stopped. The intracoastal slapped softly at the dock. The house creaked like it was settling. And under all of it, faintly, like a heartbeat, the murmur from behind the goat head door. At one point, around 2 a.m., I heard the third step squeak. Not under my foot. I wasn't moving. The sound came from the stairs. I sat up, breath caught. The murmur downstairs stopped for a beat, like someone listening back. Then the squeak again. Slow, deliberate. Someone was on the stairs. I crawled off the bed and went to my door, pressed my ear against it. Silence. Then a soft knock on my bedroom door. Not 3 knocks, just one. My stomach turned. Anthony's voice came through the wood, gentle, almost caring. "You okay in there?" Rule 5 echoed in my head. If someone knocks 3 times on the back door, ignore it, even if it sounds like me. This wasn't the back door. It was my bedroom, and it wasn't 3 knocks. But his voice sounded exactly like him. Warm, normal, like the guy who'd made me dinner. My hand hovered over the latch. Then, faintly from downstairs, I heard Anthony's real voice. Talking, laughing quietly with someone. Coming from the kitchen. My skin went ice cold. The voice at my door whispered again, softer. "Open it." I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. The voice sighed like it was annoyed. Then it did something that made bile rise in my throat. It did Anthony's laugh. Perfect. The same rhythm. The same little inhale at the end. Then the third step squeaked again, lower now, like it was moving away down the spiral. I stood there shaking in the dark, listening to the ocean and realizing the rules weren't superstition. They were instructions for living in a house that had things in it. Things that could mimic. Things that could knock. When morning came, the sunlight felt fake. Too bright. Too normal. Like a cruel joke. I went to the bathroom and splashed water on my face, and my hands trembled so hard I spilled it down my shirt. In the mirror, I looked like I'd been sick. Eyes red, skin clammy, a bruise blooming on my stomach from that punch. Downstairs, I could smell coffee, eggs, normal life smells. I went down the spiral stairs carefully, feeling the third step squeak under me like it was marking me. I kept my eyes forward. I didn't look down through the middle. The urge to peek was still there, like the hollow center was calling. In the kitchen, Anthony stood at the stove like any other morning. He wore a t-shirt and shorts, hair tied back. He looked like a beach guy, a landlord, a friend. On the fridge, the yellow post, it stared at me. "Don't be a hero." He glanced over. "Morning," he said. I stared at him, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the coffee pot at his face. I wanted to run into the street and flag down the first car and never look back. Instead, I said, "Morning," like a good little tenant. He slid a plate toward me. "Eat," he said. I didn't want to. My stomach was a knot of poison, but I ate because my body needed fuel and because refusing felt like another way to get punched. He watched me chew like he was evaluating. "You're shaking," he said. "Yeah," I said. "I wonder why." He smiled. "You'll adjust," he said, "or you won't. Either way, the house gets what it wants." "What does it want?" I asked before I could stop myself. Anthony's eyes flicked toward the goat head door. "It wants mouths," he said simply. "It wants lives that can be pulled through without making noise." My fork clattered against the plate. I clenched my jaw. "You're not a cult," I said. "You're a feeding system." Anthony's smile widened like he appreciated the wording. "Smart," he said. "See? You're already useful." I shoved the plate away, food half-eaten. "If I do this," I said, voice low, "if I bring him here, you let me leave." Anthony laughed. Real laugh this time. "Leave where?" he said. "The ocean? The street? You think the cops are coming because you say my landlord has a goat skull and my boss went missing?" "You're going to kill him," I said. My voice cracked. "You're going to murder a man." Anthony leaned forward, elbows on the counter. "You already did," he said. "The moment you dialed his number. The moment you gave him a time." Something inside me snapped hot. Then why am I still alive? I demanded. Why not just kill me and be done? Anthony's eyes gleamed. "Because the house likes you," he said, and the way he said it made my skin crawl. "Because it's easier to keep a person who can smile in daylight. A person who can make the phone calls. A person who can open the door without screaming." I stared at the goat head door and felt like I was standing in a throat. After tonight, Anthony said, casual, "You'll be one of us." "No," I said immediately. He shrugged. "Yes," he said, "you already are. You just haven't admitted it out loud." That day crawled. I want to work because he let me. That surprised me. I expected to be locked in, guarded. But two hooded figures stood near the front door as I left, faces hidden, hands folded like bouncers. Anthony watched me from the kitchen, coffee in hand, like he was letting his dog off leash. "Don't get creative," he said. I swallowed. "What if I do?" I asked, and my voice had this stupid edge to it. Anthony smiled. "Then the ocean takes you," he said, like it was a fact. "Or the house does. Either way, you won't be found." I left anyway, because what choice did I have? I drove to my job with my hands clenched so hard on the steering wheel my knuckles stayed white. I tried to tell someone. I tried to open my mouth and say, "I'm in danger," and the words died every time. Because how do you say it without sounding insane? Because I had no proof. Because my phone worked when it wanted to and died when it wanted to. Because my car lock had jammed like the house could reach out and twist metal. At lunch, I went into a bathroom stall and tried to call 911 again. The phone rang. It connected. A comm operator voice came on. 911, what's your emergency?" My heart slammed so hard I thought I'd faint. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Not because I couldn't speak, because my throat locked like someone had grabbed it. My ears popped. Pressure built behind my eyes. In my mind, I saw the goat head door opening. I saw that thick darkness swelling out. The operator repeated, "Hello? Sir?" I tried to force sound, and instead a choked squeak came out, pathetic. The line went dead. My phone screen went black again. I stared at it in my shaking hands and understood something that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just Anthony. It wasn't just the hooded people. The house itself could reach into me. It could clamp down. It could keep me quiet. I went back to work like a ghost in my own body. I nodded when spoken to. I pretended I wasn't carrying a murder invitation in my pocket. When I got home, the house smelled different. Not dinner, not lemon cleaner, salt. So much salt my tongue tasted it before I even walked through the door. Like someone had poured the ocean into the hallway. The goat head door stood closed, but I could see a faint white line at the base where something had been sprinkled. Anthony met me in the foyer. He wore a clean button-up shirt, like he was hosting a date. His hair was brushed. He looked excited. "He'll be here soon," he said. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Why are you dressed like that?" Anthony smiled. "Respect," he said. "It's polite to look nice when you're feeding." "Fuck you," I said automatically. His smile faltered for half a second. He stepped closer until his face was inches from mine. "You don't get to say that anymore," he said, voice soft and dangerous. "You're in the middle now. You're the bridge. You're the thing that makes this work." My mouth went dry. "I'll say whatever I want." Anthony's eyes hardened. "Then say in the goat room," he said. The threat was clear. I shut up. He gestured toward the kitchen. "Shoes," he said, pointing at my feet like a parent. "After midnight rule. Don't make the house notice you." There was again. The rules weren't just control. They were ways to avoid attention. Ways to avoid being noticed by whatever lived behind that door and under the stairs and maybe out on the water. I swallowed and put on sneakers. Anthony handed me a list on another bright yellow post-it. My stomach lurched because it was the same color as "Don't be a hero," like yellow mint warning in this house. This one said, "Smile, pool drink, keep him inside." He stuck it to the fridge beside the other one like it was normal. "You want me to host?" I said, voice flat. Anthony smiled. "You're the familiar face," he said. "You're the bait." My throat tightened. "What if he leaves early?" Anthony's smile widened. "Then you go with him," he said. My stomach turned. The sun set slow and red over the intracoastal. From the patio, the water looked like dark blood. Boats passed silently, their lights flickering like distant eyes. The ocean roar kept going, steady, indifferent. At 5:58, my old boss's headlights swept into the driveway. I watched from the second-floor patio, hidden behind the railing like a coward. He got out of his car with a big grin, carrying a six-pack like he'd brought tribute. He wore a polo shirt and khaki shorts. He looked happy. He looked alive. He looked like a man who didn't know he'd already been purchased. He walked up to the front door and knocked. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd vomit. Anthony opened the door with a bright smile and a handshake, like he'd done with me, like he was repeating the script. "Welcome," Anthony said, voice warm. "Come on in." My old boss stepped inside. I forced my legs to move. I went downstairs. I pasted a smile on my face, so hard my cheeks hurt. "Hey," I said, and my voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. He turned, surprised, then laughed. "Look at you," he said. "Fancy place, man." "Yeah," I said. "It's good." He held up the beer. "Brought you something. Where's the kitchen?" I swallowed. "This way," I said, and I walked him into the kitchen like I was leading him into a mouth. Anthony stayed close. Too close. Like a shadow. I poured drinks. I smiled. I nodded. I did exactly what the post-it told me. My old boss talked about himself, of course. He asked vague questions about my job now, and then talked over my answers. He made jokes about me finally making it. He didn't notice the goat's skull. Or if he did, he just assumed it was decor. At one point, he laughed and clapped me on the shoulder. "See," he said, "you didn't need overtime. You needed ambition." My fingernails dug into my palm. Anthony watched, amused, like he enjoyed seeing my anger twist. Dinner was fish. Anthony had cooked it perfectly. Flaky, seasoned, smelling like lemon and butter. It was almost enough to make me forget what was coming. Almost. We ate at the island. The candles weren't out. The lights were on. The house pretended. My old boss drank too fast. He was on his third beer before the plates were cleared. He loosened up, got louder. He started telling a story about some other employee he'd fired, laughing like cruelty was a joke. I couldn't take it. I couldn't keep smiling. "You ever feel bad?" I snapped, and the words came out sharp enough that the room went quiet. Anthony's eyes flicked to me, warning. My old boss blinked. "What? You ever feel bad?" I repeated, voice low. "For the shit you did to people? The way you cut hours and acted like you were doing us favors? The way you smiled when you screwed us?" The silence stretched. The ocean roared outside like it wanted to drown the moment. My old boss's face hardened. He set his beer down with a thud. "Is that why you invited me?" he said. "To bitch." Anthony leaned back, watching like it was entertainment. I swallowed, fighting the shake in my hands. "I invited you because I'm killing you," my brain screamed. "Because I'm a coward." Instead, I said, "Because I thought maybe you'd come." Because you like being invited to nice places. His eyes narrowed. Don't get cute, he said. You called me. You wanted something. What is it? A job? Money? You try to guilt trip me into giving you some apology. Maybe I wanted you to see what it's like, I said, and my voice rose despite me. To be the one who walks into a room thinking it's safe. Anthony's gaze sharpened. His smile vanished. My old boss stood. All right, he said, angry now. This was a mistake. I'm leaving. My heart dropped through the floor. The post-it flashed in my mind. Keep him inside. Anthony's hand touched my back, light as a blade. Sit down, Anthony said, voice still polite but edged. My old boss glanced at him, annoyed. Who the hell are you? Anthony smiled. Homeowner, he said, and host. And I don't like people leaving hungry. My old boss snorted. I'm not hungry. I am annoyed. And I don't have to sit anywhere. He turned toward the front door. The house creaked. The air changed. A damp chill rolled through the kitchen like someone had opened a freezer. Candle smell, wax and smoke seeped in from under the goat head door even though it was closed. My old boss hesitated mid-step, frowning. What's that smell? Anthony's smile widened. Ocean, he said. My old boss took another step. From the back door, 3 knocks sounded. Firm, slow. He froze. Someone knocking? Rule, 5 hit me like a punch. Ignore it, even if it sounds like me. Anthony's eyes flicked to the back door, then to me. A silent command. Do nothing. My old boss, drunk and curious, headed toward the back door anyway. I'll check it, he said. Don't. I blurted, and my voice came out too loud. Too desperate. He turned, irritated. What the hell is wrong with you? Anthony's fingers dug into my shoulder hard enough to hurt. Sit, he repeated, voice low now. My old boss stared between us, suspicion blooming. Is this some kind of prank? He said. Did you invite me here to mess with me? No, I said, and my throat burned because the truth was worse than any prank. The back door knocked again. 3 knocks. The glass pane reflected the kitchen light, but beyond it was dark, intracoastal water invisible behind the curtains. My old boss reached for the back door handle. Anthony moved. He didn't lunge like a movie villain. He stepped smooth and grabbed my old boss's wrist and twisted hard. It was a sharp crack. My old boss yelled, sudden and raw. Anthony's polite mask slid off like wet paper. I said he hissed, sit. My old boss jerked back, clutching his wrist, eyes wide. What the fuck? 2 hooded figures appeared from the hallway like they'd been standing in the shadows the whole time. They grabbed my old boss's arms. He tried to fight, but the drunkenness made him sloppy. Panic made him weaker, not stronger. He slammed his elbow back into one of them, and the hood slipped. I saw that stretched bald head again, the scar symbols, the broken teeth. My old boss screamed, and for a second I thought maybe he'd break free. Maybe he'd make it outside. Maybe he'd run into the street, and someone would see, and everything would explode into noise and sirens and daylight truth. Anthony snapped his fingers. Someone shoved that same chemical rag over my old boss's face. He struggled, feet scraping the tile. He tried to shout, but the cloth swallowed it. His eyes bulged. He swung wildly, hitting the counter hard enough to knock a glass over. The glass shattered. Shards skittered across the tile like little teeth. Barefoot rule flashed in my mind again. Never go into the kitchen barefoot after midnight. Shoes. Always shoes. The hooded figures moved without stepping on the glass, like they knew exactly where every shard landed before it even landed. My old boss's knees buckled. His body went slack. Anthony caught him almost gently, like a dance partner, and lowered him. Then he looked at me. His eyes were bright. Hungry. You did good, he said. I stood there frozen, staring at the broken glass, the spilled beer soaking into the grout like dark water, my old boss's chest rising shallowly under the rag. I didn't do shit, I whispered. Anthony stepped close enough that his breath warmed my ear. You opened the door, he said. You made the call. You brought him across the threshold. You're the bridge. My stomach churned so hard I gagged. The hooded figures lifted my old boss like a sack and carried him toward the goat head door. I followed because my legs moved on their own, because some part of me believed if I didn't watch, it would be worse, because the post it still said smile, and I didn't know how to stop being obedient. Anthony opened the goat head door wide. The darkness inside looked thick again, like deep water. Candlelight didn't reach the corners. It just bled out and got swallowed. The chanting began, louder now, and my ears popped like I was diving. Pressure squeezed my skull. They carried my old boss inside. Anthony gestured for me to step forward. I stopped at the threshold. Rule 1 screamed, "Do not open the door. Not for any reason. If it's open, close it without stepping inside." My feet rooted. Anthony's head tilted. "Come," he said softly. "Witness." "I can't," I said, voice shaking. "I'm not." Anthony's smile cracked wider, and for a second I saw the thing behind his eyes again. Not madness, not religion. Appetite. "You already are," he said. "Come." 2 hands grabbed my elbows from behind. Cold dry. They pushed. I stumbled over the threshold. The air inside hit me like swamp heat, damp and metallic. The penny smell was overwhelming. My tongue tasted blood. Candles lined the floor in a circle, and in the center, my old boss lay on a stone slab that looked older than the house, like it had been hauled up from somewhere wet and dark and set here like an altar. His eyes fluttered open, glassy with sedative. He tried to speak around the rag. It came out as muffled, panicked noise. He saw me, and in his eyes I saw it: betrayal, confusion, the sudden, crushing understanding that the person who invited you somewhere safe is the reason you're dying. My stomach flipped. I took a step back and my heel hit something. A shallow bowl of salt. It tipped, spilling white onto the floor. A hooded figure hissed, angry, and slapped my shoulder hard enough to sting. Anthony's voice cut through the chant, sharp. "Careful," he snapped. "He doesn't know yet." My ears rang. My eyes watered from the smell. The hooded circle tightened around the slab. Someone pulled the rag off my old boss's face. He sucked in a ragged breath, eyes wide. "What is this?" he rasped. "What the fuck?" Anthony stepped into view, smiling like a preacher. "A consequence," he said. My old boss looked at me again. "You," he choked. "What is why?" I tried to speak. Nothing came out. My throat locked. Pressure squeezed behind my eyes. The house didn't want me making noise. The house didn't want me ruining the ritual with words. My old boss's breath hitched. "Please," he said, and it was the ugliest word in the world because it was real. "Please." "Oh, whatever. I'll pay you. I'll—" Anthony laughed. "You always think money is the rope," he said. "Not tonight." A hooded figure produced a knife. Not a kitchen knife. Something old, curved, like a fishing blade, but heavier. The metal looked dark, stained. My knees went weak. Anthony didn't look at the knife. He looked at me. "This is the part," he said, voice low, "where you decide if you're really with us." I shook my head violently. "No," I managed the words scraping out. Anthony's smile faded. "Then you're not useful," he said. The chanting rose. The candle flames leaned inward. The darkness in the far corner of the room thickened, and for a second, I saw something move under it like a shadow passing underwater. Huge, slow, patient. My lungs seized. I couldn't breathe right. The pressure felt like it was pushing me down into the floor. Anthony leaned close to my face. "Don't be a hero," he whispered, and something inside me, some weak, terrified survival thing, snapped into place. I nodded, not because I wanted to, because I couldn't see any other path that didn't end with me on that slab. Anthony's smile returned instantly. He stepped back, satisfied. He raised his hand. The knife came down. "I won't give you the gore like it's entertainment. I won't turn my old boss into a story detail you can snack on. I can tell you the sounds, though. The wet, sharp noises. The way a human voice turns into animal noise when it's truly afraid. The way chanting can cover it up just enough that if you were upstairs with headphones, you could pretend it was a movie. I can tell you he looked at me until the end. And I can tell you the worst part wasn't the killing. The worst part was the moment after, when the room felt pleased, like the house had eaten and was settling back into itself, like the air got lighter, like the pressure eased. The hooded figures moved with practiced efficiency. They cleaned, they wiped, they poured water over the slab, and the water ran dark into a drain in the floor that I'd never noticed before. A drain that made no sense in a room like that. A drain like the room expected to get wet. Anthony stood beside me, hand resting on my shoulder like we were watching a sunset. "You did good," he said again. I stared at the drain. I stared at the salt scattered on the floor where I'd spilled it. The white grains looked like tiny bones. "Can I go now?" I whispered. Anthony laughed softly. "Go where?" he said. "You think the house lets go of what it's tasted?" My knees finally gave, and I sank to the floor. My hands shook so hard my fingers cramped. I pressed my palms against my eyes like I could push the memory back in. Anthony crouched beside me. "This is your confession now," he said, like he was giving me a gift. "You're not a bystander. You're not innocent. That means you can survive." I looked at him through tears I didn't remember making. "You're a monster," I said. Anthony's smile cracked. "So are you," he said. "You just didn't know it yet. They let me shower afterward. They didn't have to. They chose to. Like a reward. Like making me clean would make it easier to keep living in my skin." I stood under hot water until it ran cold, scrubbing until my arms ached, but the smell stayed in my nose. Metallic, wax, salt, like the ocean had crawled into my sinuses. When I came out, the yellow post-it on the fridge was still there. "Don't be a hero." The other one smiled. "Pool drink." "Keep him inside" was gone. In its place was a new post-it, same messy marker. "Now you stay." That first week after, I tried to die in small ways. Not physically, mentally. I tried them out. I tried to pretend I was watching somebody else's life. It didn't work. Anthony treated me like a roommate again during daylight. He cooked. He joked. He acted like nothing had happened. Like we just shared a secret, and now we were closer. At night, the hooded people came. Not always the same ones, but always in black, always quiet, always moving like they belonged more than I did. Sometimes I'd hear voices from behind the goat head door. Rule 2, and my skin would crawl because once I recognized my own voice among them. Not me speaking, an imitation, my tone, my cadence, saying my name softly like it wanted me to answer. I never answered. I stayed in my room. I put on headphones. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the ocean roar and tried not to scream. They started training me. Anthony called it studying, like I was taking a class. He brought me books, old, brittle paper that smelled like mold and brine. Demonology, he called it, but it didn't read like Hollywood. It read like operational notes, like field manuals, lists of what to do, what not to do, what to watch for. He made me fast on certain days. He watched me eat on others. He told me what words to mutter at specific times. Not because he believed in magic like a fantasy nerd, but because the house responded. The air shifted when certain phrases were spoken. The candle flames leaned. The pressure in my ears changed. The third step squeaked, sometimes like a reply. I argued at first. A lot. "I'm not doing this," I'd say, and he'd look at me like I was a toddler refusing vegetables. "You already did," he'd say. "You can either do it with teeth or do it without. Either way, it gets done." One night, after I snapped at him, he grabbed me by the throat and shoved me against the kitchen wall so hard my teeth clicked. His face was inches from mine, eyes bright. "You want to fight?" he hissed. "Fight the water. Fight the house. Fight the thing that knocks when it sounds like me. You can't fight me and win." I choked, hands clawing at his wrist. My shoes squeaked on tile. I remembered Rule 3 with a weird, hysterical clarity. Never barefoot in the kitchen after midnight. And realized my sneakers were the only thing between my feet and the cold tile and all the broken glass that sometimes appeared there in the morning like evidence of a party I wasn't invited to. Anthony released me with a shove like I was trash. "Learn," he said, "or drown." After that, I learned when to shut up. Not because I respected him, because I wanted to live long enough to do something back. That's the part one need you to understand about how this works. They don't chain you in the basement. They don't beat you daily. They don't make it obvious, because obvious creates noise, and noise is what they fear. Noise brings lights. Noise brings questions. Noise brings people who don't belong. They let you live. They let you walk on the beach sometimes, but never past the dunes where neighbors could see you long. They let you fish, but the moment the sun started dropping, Anthony would appear behind you like a shadow. "Home," he'd say. If I argued, he'd just watch the water. One evening, I pushed it. I stayed on the beach a little too long, watching the sun bleed out. I didn't want to go back to the house. I didn't want to smell wax. I didn't want to hear chanting. I wanted to disappear into the dark like I'd never existed. Anthony appeared beside me, without me hearing him approach. "You don't get to hide from what you are now," he said. "Fuck you," I muttered, staring at the waves. He nodded toward the intracoastal side, where the water was black and smooth. "You see that?" he asked. At first I saw nothing. Then, near the dock, something pale rolled under the surface. Slow, huge, like a manatee, but wrong. Too long, too smooth, like a rope sliding. My skin went cold. "Rule 4, Anthony murmured. "Do not use the back dock after dark, even if you think you see something you recognize." "You wrote that," I whispered. Anthony smiled. "I wrote it because it happens," he said. The pale shape rose closer to the surface, and for 1/6 I thought I saw a face, humanish, stretched, eyes too wide, like someone pressed under ice. I stumbled back. Anthony's hand gripped my arm like a vice. "Home," he repeated. I went. That night, I heard the back door knock 3 times. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I stayed in my room. Latch clicked because deceptively safe rules were the only thing between me and whatever wanted in. The knocks came again. Then, softly, someone whispered through the back door glass. My name, like a lover, like a parent, like a friend. I never answered. When morning came, I found wet footprints on the kitchen tile, leading from the back door to the goat head door. Bare feet. Water dripped where there shouldn't have been water. The footprints stopped at the goat head door like the thing had stepped through. Anthony saw me staring and smiled. "See," he said, "rules keep you alive." I wanted to smash his teeth in. Instead, I nodded, because I was building something in my head. A plan, the way you build a raft while you're drowning. Not perfect, not heroic, just something. I started paying attention. I watched how the hooded figures moved. I listened to their chants, tried to catch patterns. I noticed the way the house reacted to certain phrases, the pressure in the air, the way candle flames leaned, the way the third step squeaked like a response. I noticed the salt lines, where they placed them, when they refreshed them. I noticed the goat's skull itself, the horns worn smooth like handles, the way Anthony's fingers always brushed them before opening the door, like touching bone was a key. I noticed my phone, how it died when I tried to call out, but worked perfectly when they wanted me to invite someone. How the signal bars didn't matter. How the device was just a tool the house used when it pleased. I started hiding small things. Not weapons. Not dramatic. Just tools. A lighter. A small screwdriver from my car. A spare key I stole from Anthony's drawer when he left it open. A thumb drive from work with nothing on it yet, but something I could use. Anthony watched me, sometimes with that bright, hungry interest, like he could smell intention. "You're thinking," he said one night, leaning against the kitchen island, glass of water in hand. "I'm allowed to think," I said, keeping my voice flat. He smiled. "Sure," he said. "Just remember who hears it." My stomach tightened. I started acting like the part he wanted. That's the most disgusting sentence I've ever typed, and it's true. I muttered incantations when I was supposed to. I fasted when told. I studied the books. I nodded when Anthony spoke. I didn't argue unless it was strategic. I started asking questions like I was curious, not like I was plotting. "How did your mom learn this?" I asked one afternoon, forcing my voice to sound interested instead of terrified. Anthony's face softened in a way that almost looked like affection. "She was chosen," he said. "Chosen how?" He glanced toward the water outside. The ocean brought her something, he said. Something she couldn't ignore. What was it? I pushed careful. Anthony's eyes gleamed. A door, he said, and he laughed at his own joke like it was clever. I kept my face neutral, and she built the house around it. Exactly, he said. She knew if you build it right, you can control what comes through. You can feed it. You can make it work for you. And if you don't feed it, I asked casual. Anthony's smile thinned. Then it feeds itself, he said. And it's not picky. That night, I heard my own voice again from behind the goat head door whispering, saying my name, saying help in my tone, like it wanted me to answer, like it wanted me to open my door and come down the stairs and look through the center. I didn't, because I wanted to live long enough to burn them. They started guarding my room more often after the dinner. Sometimes I'd come upstairs and a hooded figure would be sitting in the hallway like a statue, head bowed, hands folded. No phone, no book, just waiting. I'd stop and stare, and the figure would lift its hood slightly to show me nothing but shadow and a sliver of pale mouth. Anthony would call up from downstairs, cheerful, just making sure you don't sleepwalk. Sleepwalk, like I was the danger. I learned to pick my moments. I learned to smile when I wanted to spit. I learned to keep my eyes down when the third step squeaked under no one's foot. Weeks blurred into something like normal. And that's the scariest part. Not the chanting, not the goat skull, not the thing in the intracoastal that rolled under the surface at night. The scariest part is how fast your brain starts accepting hell as a routine. Dinner, study, mutters, sleep with the latch clicked, wake to sunrise, pretend. And underneath all of it, that heavy, silent knowledge. There's innocent blood on my hands now. My old boss wasn't innocent in the moral sense, maybe. He was a bastard, but he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve to be fed to whatever lived behind bone and wood. He didn't deserve to look at me like that at the end. I invited him. I did that. So yeah, consider this a confession. Not because I want pity, because I want the truth somewhere outside my skull. Because I'm tired of carrying it like a stone in my stomach. And because I'm planning something massive. Not a heroic rescue. Not a clean revenge fantasy. A way to destroy them and maybe destroy myself in the process. Because I don't know if you can come back from being a bridge. I can't tell you the whole plan yet. Not because it's some cool secret, but because if I type it wrong, if I say the wrong words, I don't know what this house can hear through a screen. I don't know what follows you once you've been in that room. I can tell you pieces, though, the way I've been building trust. Anthony likes control, but he also likes devotion. He likes being the one who knows. He likes when you treat him like he's special. So I do it. I ask him to teach me. I repeat phrases back to him like they matter. I act like the goat skull makes me feel safe. I act like the rules are blessings, not chains. Sometimes he tests me. He'll open the goat head door crack and watch my face. He'll knock 3 times on the back door from inside the house and see if I flinch. He'll stand on the stairs behind me and let the third step squeak without stepping on it, just to see if I look down through the middle. I never look. I never break. I keep moving. I wear shoes in the kitchen after midnight, even when my feet ache. I ignore the voices. I ignore the knocks. I lock the latch until it clicks. Deceptively safe. Obedient. Useful. And in the spaces they don't watch, tiny moments I gather. I've learned where they keep the candles. I've learned which salt lines matter and which are theatrics. I've learned that the goat skull isn't just decoration. It's a handle, a key, a focus. Anthony touches it like a pilot touching an instrument panel. I've learned the hooded ones aren't all the same. Some are scared. Some are addicted. Some are empty. Some don't feel like people at all. Once I caught one in the kitchen at 1 a.m., barefoot, standing perfectly still over the tile, staring at a shard of glass like it was the moon. Rule 3 screamed in my head. I froze in the doorway. The figure slowly turned its head toward me, hood slipping back just enough for me to see the stretched bald scalp and scar symbols. It opened its mouth. My own voice came out, whispering, "Don't be a hero." I backed away, heart hammering, and when I blinked, it was gone. No footsteps, no kriak, just gone, like it had stepped into a shadow. The next morning, Anthony was humming while he cooked eggs, like always. "You sleep okay?" he asked. I stared at him, and I wanted to lunge across the counter and drive a fork into his eye. Instead, I said, "Yeah." He smiled. "Good," he said. "You're learning." "So yeah, I play the part they want of me. I mutter incantations when I'm supposed to. I fast when told. I study. I pour drinks when guests come. And yes, there have been more guests. Not as frequent as before because I think the house is satisfied for a while after a big feed, but the cycle continues. They don't let me choose again yet. They might. I don't know. They don't let me leave the house freely anymore. My room is guarded sometimes. My phone works when it wants to. The ocean still roars like it always did, indifferent. And the yellow post, it stays on the fridge like a scar. Don't be a hero. I used to read it like advice. Now I read it like a threat. Because the one time I tried to be a hero, one time I went down the stairs, one time I listened to a scream, one time I tried to call for help. The house opened its mouth and showed me what happens to people who make noise. If you ever come across a deal that's too good to be true, cheap rent on the water, a landlord who seems too welcoming, a house that smells a little like salt and pennies, a door with a goat's skull mounted over it, run. Run away and don't look back. And if you hear someone knock 3 times from the dark side of the house, don't answer. Even if it sounds like me.